radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio. For the masses. Yeah, man. How you doing? How you doing? Today's Tuesday, September 15th, 2020. We are 259 days into the new year, only 107 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planets. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking? Yeah, man. How you doing? Tonight, very special guest right here on this program. Jay Weidner is here. Jay Weidner is here. We're going to be talking about the life and times of Terence McKenna this evening. Oh, yeah. Been wanting to do this show for a long time. So here we go. Tomorrow night, right here, Carolyn Ford joins us. We're going to be talking about the power of crystal skulls. That is tomorrow night. Thursday night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. How many times can I say night or tonight? Right? How many times? Tonight, night. Well, and Fader night counts too. So there you go. All right. Oh, man. What a strange check. Yeah, that's, man, sounds good, doesn't it? I got my new compressors hooked back up, took out the old DBXs, and got the new ones in, and flying without a net tonight, too. I just went, and Rita goes, should we sound check? I said, nah, we're going straight in. We're going straight in tonight. Oh, yeah, sounds good. Oh, yeah, sounds good. Okay, where are we? What was I just talking about? Oh, Crystal Skulls tomorrow night with Carolyn Ford. And I hope that you went and got your very own crystal skull, and you will be able to sit down with us tomorrow night and discuss your crystal skulls and join us. If you haven't, well, you can still go to EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Use the promo code Jimmy for 10% off of your crystal skull order today. But get yourself your very own crystal skull. Mine here in the studio, just Taco Tuesday? Is it Taco Tuesday? Is it Taco Tuesday? I guess I know what we're having for dinner tonight. Jimmy's driving to the taco truck. Yeah, we've got a new one. I feel so bad. Our old one, we've been going to that family for a couple of years. And you know what? This is the deal. We in our community, we taco trucks are basically banned. So you have to go to the edge of town. So you go to the edge of town, and you will see lurking there immediately across the street, right? And we had one taco truck that we went to for a couple of years. One day we showed up and it wasn't there. And so we went to another one down the street, and we did that a few times. This last over months, went there a few times. That one disappeared. We found another one, and we're dedicated. If we that's it. Customers for life. And then that one folded. So then we found this other taco trailer, actually, and been going there for 2 or 3 years. And then we found this other one because our main taco trailer wasn't there. They took a night off. Okay, no big deal. So we go to this other place that, set up on the side of the road, and we drive by it all the time, and it is outstanding. So now we've been going back there. And let me tell you something. You ever see the movie My Blue Heaven? My Blue Heaven. It's an amazing movie. Rick Moranis, Steve Martin, hilarious movie. But there's a scene in the movie where Steve Martin says, he plays a mafia guy, gangster from New York, testifying. He's on a plane. He says, hey, I want to write my autobiography, and I think people need to know. I've got things to say, things that they should know about me. And he goes like, take tipping, for instance. I don't believe in tipping. I believe in over-tipping. And that's how I've lived my life. I believe in over-tipping. So everybody at these taco trucks, man, they know, when they see my car pulling up, it's going to be a good trip. And we're just dedicated like that. And this new stand that we're going to, and apparently I'm going to be visiting tonight, yeah. They know I believe in over-tipping. All right, so Taco Tuesday, I guess. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. The Sandbox is hashtag F2B on Twitter. Any questions during the show tonight? I didn't say comments, Tirana. See that? Any questions during the show tonight? Use hashtag F2BQ. Mark Tirana forced me into changing what I say on the show because he busted me on a technicality. You said comments, man. You said comments. Not now. Not now. Any questions tonight? Hashtag F2BQ. You can also email throughout the show, and that is Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Let's get to the breaking news. I never thought that I would share this breaking news with you, but here you go. Laura London just said, I love My Blue Heaven. I know every line. Yes. And I would say I would be willing to get into a competition on that, Laura. If you think you know every line, Rita's like, no, Laura, don't do it. Don't get Jimmy started on My Blue Heaven. Such a great movie. Such a great movie. All right. Let's get into the breaking news. Microsoft founder Bill Gates has questioned whether a coronavirus Whoa. Microsoft founder Bill Gates questioned whether a coronavirus vaccine approved by the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, could be trusted as safe and effective. Say what? I'm confused. But anyway, Gates specifically cited FDA Commissioner Stephen Hahn about Hahn touting blood plasma as a potential treatment, only to reverse himself a day later. Amid concerns over a potentially rushed vaccine, 9 pharmaceutical companies signed a joint pledge not to submit any vaccine without confidence in its safety and efficacy earlier this month. I have no idea what is really going on here. I don't. We'll have to wait and see. I'm very confused. All right, big news out of the desert. Virgin Galactic plans to conduct its next crewed spaceflight test on October 22nd. According to documents the company filed with the Federal Communications Commission earlier today. The flight will be the first of 2 that the space tourism company has planned to complete testing of its Spaceship Two spacecraft system and should have just 2 test pilots on board. That's the number one. Virgin Galactic said last month that the second test flight will then have four mission specialists inside the cabin and on board. If both test flights succeed, right, Virgin Galactic expects to fly founder Sir Richard Branson in the first quarter of 2021. That will kick off the company's commercial tourism service. Absolutely incredible. All right. Here we go. Another reminder that humanity must remain ever vigilant for space-borne threats. I'm talking about asteroids because an amateur astronomer in Brazil discovered a huge asteroid that somehow slipped past the Earth's main planetary defenses last month. Asteroid 2020 QU6, measuring, check this, 1,000 meters wide. That's right, over 3,000 feet, and large enough to inflict some serious damage here on Earth if it hit us, was spotted by amateur astronomer Leonardo Amaral, based at the Campo das Amoré Observatory in Brazil on August 27th. Mercifully, it passed us at a distance of about 400 million kilometers, over 100 times the distance between the Earth and the Moon, 5 days ago on September 10th. Absolutely incredible. Rita, we got to get a telescope. We got to get in on the asteroid watch. Well, it was announced today. I think this came on the heels of my statements I made yesterday about social media and fake news and the divisiveness. Remember that? Well, check this out. Celebrity Kim Kardashian. I said it. I actually said her name on the air. Kim Kardashian has announced she is freezing both her Facebook and Instagram accounts in support of the hashtag Stop Hate for Profit campaign, which accuses the firms of allowing groups to spread misinformation and bigotry. Kardashian is the 7th most followed account on Instagram with 188 million followers. Holy crap. And another 30 million followers on Facebook, leading some to predict that her protest of the platforms could lead to others following suit. How much juice does this really have? I know that's what you're asking yourself right now. Well, Facebook's stock value tumbled today, immediately following Kardashian's tweets being published, and then it clawed its way back. But that's the Kardashian effect. Let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to one of my favorite actors today, Tom Hardy. That's right. Tom Hardy is 43. I know you women out there are like, oh, Jimmy just said Tom Hardy. Who? Jimmy just said Tom Hardy. I did. He was great in Legend, amazing in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, and stole the show in Rock and Rolla. Tommy Lee Jones today is 74. Night Rangers, Kelly Keagy, today is 68. Drummer, right, for Night Ranger. We know that. Wore the gloves, you remember? He wore gloves when he played the drums, but he was also a great singer. He was the singer on Sister Christian. Now you need to go back to the video, MTV. Got to think. Oh, that's right. The drummer sang that song. That wasn't Jack Blades. No, that's right. Yep, that's a fact. Today, he's 68. Warrant's Jerry Dixon today is 53. Jerry Dixon, born in Pasadena, joined Warrant when he was still in high school in 11th grade. Then had like 3 number 1 albums in a row. Good for Jerry. Today, 53 years old. Our dead guy's birthday today is, I need a moment of silence, please, for Lee Dorman. 1942 to 2012, died at the age of 70. Lee was a bass player, best known as a member of Iron Butterfly. That's right. He also played in Captain Beyond. Lee was the man behind one of the greatest bass parts in all of rock history. That's right. The bass line for In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. Doom, doom, doo, 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 doo. Remember that? That's Lee Dorman. I listened to that song over and over again when I was a kid. It spoke to me. Later, I moved to California, and I became friends with Lee. Very close friends, actually. And I spent many days eating and drinking with him on the beaches of Malibu, listening to his advice, his music advice, his tutelage, and great stories. Lee was the best. Lee died of natural causes in Laguna Niguel, California, back in 2012 at the age of 70. Happy birthday, Lee Dorman. Best smile in all of rock and roll. I was a cool dude. On this day in history, OTD, 1959, Nikita Khrushchev becomes the first Soviet head of state to visit the United States. During the next 2 weeks while he was here, Khrushchev's visit provided some of the most dramatic and humorous moments in the history of the Cold War. Fader fact. Iceland. Yeah. Got to have me a Iceland fader fact once in a while. Here you go. I think the last one I did with Iceland was that 90% of the country believes in elves. I think that's what it was. Anyway, Iceland has so much geothermal energy that it has hot water for your shower in the morning straight from the ground to your house. And that is a fader fact. Rita just says, I'm the worst case scenario of Thomas Jefferson's dream. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Do I got to do I got to go back and read? You could melt all this stuff. Oh man. I like my girls a little bit dirty. No, women. I think it's women. All right. Where am I at? Somebody help me. Tonight, Jay Weidner is here. We're going to be talking about the life and times of Terence McKenna, one of the most influential researchers and voices of the 20th and 21st century. Right now, tonight, Jay Weidner, Terence McKenna. Tomorrow night, Carolyn Ford is going to be here. We're going to be talking about the power of crystal skulls. Thursday night's another fader night with open lines all night long. Let me hit this River Moon coffee. It's a vegetable. That's the best line in the movie, Laura. That's the best line in the movie. It's a vegetable. All right. Okay. A couple of years ago, I was over at my brother-in-law's house for a poolside lunch celebration with our family. And beautiful day. Rita and I were having a great time. The sun was shining. Food and drink were flowing endlessly, as it always does. The conversations were eclectic. And then I get up from the table and was walking by the pool when my nephew, who is a big guy too, he's like 6'4", 30-year-old adult, right? Big guy. He walks to my right in between me and the pool. And as he passed me, I pushed him in. Yep. Fully clothed. It was awesome. Huge splash. Yeah. So cool. Freaked everybody out. It was so much fun. Anyway, this is who I am. I can't change it. Sometimes I want to change, but deep inside, I like me. Rita has put up with this side of me for 20 years. And yes, at times I embarrass her. But although she keeps trying, she knows I ain't going anywhere. I am who I am. Which is why, hosting this show and others, I have to keep my inner me in check. Marines once tied a rope around me and pushed me off a cliff, forcing me to rappel 150 feet to the ground, all because I was talking smack. This is who I am. I asked for it, and it was fun. Scared the crap out of me. But I did it. I asked for it. They said, that's it. Come on. Push me off the cliff. And I do it again, too. It's who I am. So, in prepping for today's show, I went and listened to some Terence McKenna. Actually, a lot of it. And when you listen to someone as smart and wise as Terence, you soak it up. You learn. Now, I went there, I was going to grab audio, and I was going to do this and this thing, and I ended up just getting into the Terence McKenna zone. Right? I'm getting into the zone. I'm listening to Terence speak. It was incredible. Terence says to be the best that you can be. Check. I got it. Terence says to respect nature. Check. I got it. Terence says that there was so much more to learn. You know nothing. Check. I got it. Terence says to love everyone, even if you don't understand them. Check. I got that too. All of this only works on half of me. The other half wants to hang out and cause trouble, to be the loudest person in the room. Now, don't be fooled by the nice guy you hear each night on the show. I know that I'm polite, and I don't like to cause too many ripples, but don't take that as me being soft. I am not. Which is why it hurts so much that I can't go out there and troll on the net. Because I have to behave. Trust me, I know this. Most of the problems we see and hear about social media are about people that can't control themselves. And today, that is the real pandemic. I have to fight the constant urge of putting on the gloves and going toe-to-toe with a troll. It's hard. But I seem to manage things, and I pull myself back together every single time. I just do it. But you have to understand, growing up, I used to watch the group of guys who would walk around to the back of the school and smoke cigarettes between classes. And I wanted to be with them, the rebels. But I usually ended up going to class, doing the right thing. I would just put my head down, walk to class, and get at my desk before the bell rang. Now, again, don't be fooled, because sometimes I found my way around the school with the troublemakers, and it was always a good time. But moving on. It's the same thing today with me and social media. I want to dip my toes in the water. I really do. Yesterday, I spoke about a new documentary, and it is called The Social Dilemma. And I hope that you get a chance to watch it if you haven't watched it already. But The Social Dilemma paints a very clear picture about what is causing the anger, the division, and the drama that is playing out in the social media landscape. The film has solidified my thoughts about what is happening today all around the world. It has made me very conscious about reading through any news feed or take anybody serious about what they post, in that they are probably not in control of their thoughts. An algorithm is running things. So I realize this now, right? It's my Terence McKenna sensitive side. But again, don't take my lack of response to the trolls as me being too soft. It's the exact opposite. Because I'm the guy who will push you in the pool at the drop of a hat. from behind. That's right. You see, the will always think that they are winding me up, but it's me circling like a vulture, waiting, and then, bam, somebody just got wet in the deep end. Now, when their heads bob to the surface to get some air, it's my back they see as I stroll away. Tension released. That's right. And now it's time for me to read some Terence McKenna and find my center. Life is good. Seriously. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is the Game Changer Network. Tonight on this very program, Jay Weidner is here because we're going to be talking about the life and times of Terence McKenna. All right? All right. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. On the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet, this is Fade to Black. And I'll be right back with Jay Weidner after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. GetTheTea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's GetTheTea.com. GetTheTea.com. The tea that makes you go.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jay Weidner. We're going to be talking about the life and times of Terence McKenna, shamanism, metaphysics, alchemy, language, philosophy, culture, technology, environmentalism, and the origins of human consciousness. All that and much more. And I'm going to say this. Jay has the longest bio. This bio of Jay's should be illegal. I wrote it. It's too much. I'm going to cut to the chase. In 2000, he founded Sacred Mysteries together with his wife, Sharon Rose. He has directed 15 films. His website is sacredmysteries.com. I'm getting straight to it, Jay. There you go. I'm done. You okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember once you said to me, I'm not going to get into the details, but you go, Church, man, just keep the intro short. And you shot me this look. I was like, man, this is going to be the shortest intro Jay has ever. Ladies and gentlemen, Jay Weidner. Just like,
much better.
Yeah, much better. How you doing, man?
Doing good. How are you?
Oh, man. I'm doing the same as you. You know, trying to make it through this crazy world that we live in, and I see the light. I do. I see the light. I'm headed towards the light, and we're gonna get there, Jay, together.
We are. I have no doubt.
When?
Well, I mean, we're headed towards. We're in. We're actually in, I believe, the beginning of the greatest opportunity, but also crisis in human history. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about Terence, because he predicted all of this like 25, 30 years ago. And, I'm sad he didn't get to live to see it. But at the same time, he gave us his great wisdom and knowledge so that we could get ready for what we're about to go through.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, Jay, can I get you to get closer to your mic?
All right, how's that?
I need the Jay Weidner voice. I need the radio voice. I need the Jay Weidner voice.
I moved to a different...
Watch this. Jay changed his settings. We just had a great sound check, and I can already tell Jay goofed around with his microphone. He's talking. Okay. I moved
to my office and kicked out of my house by my wife.
Yeah.
So how does this sound?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I want to start here, actually, because you just brought up one of the great points. He died in 2000, and at a very young age, at the age of 53. And he didn't get a chance to see the transitions that he had been speaking to us about for 30, 35 years. And so before we get to that, I have one of his last statements that he made just before his death, speaking about his death. You may have heard this before, Jay, but I want the audience to hear this. It's profound. Okay, so he got, leading up to this, he got diagnosed with brain cancer and a terminal tumor. That was it. And he was given 4 months to live, right? That's it. And this statement was given during that time. And he says this, quote, "I always thought death would come on the freeway in a few horrifying moments. So you'd have no time to sort it out. Having months and months to look at it and think about it and talk to people and hear what they have to say, it's kind of a blessing. It's certainly an opportunity to grow up and get a grip and sort it all out. Just being told by an unsmiling guy in a white coat that you're going to be dead in 4 months definitely turns on the lights. It makes life rich and poignant. When it first happened and I got these diagnoses, I could see the light of eternity, a la William Blake, shining through every leaf. I mean, a bug walking across the ground moved me to tears. And that was Terence McKenna right before he died. He ended up dying on April 3rd, 2000 at the age of 53. Heavy words, but yet this is coming from somebody that not only talked to us about consciousness and ourselves and making this world a better place, but he wanted to do this with us, and that was taken away from him. And instead of taking things another direction, he said these words, and he meant it, didn't he, Jay?
Those are. I almost choked up when when you spoke those words. I remember when he said that. I remember that statement back almost 20 years ago, or over 20 years ago, I guess. And it's a funny thing because I was a huge fan, of course, and I had all of his lectures on cassette and CD and all that. But after he died, I couldn't listen to him anymore. I was so broken up by his death that I couldn't listen. And then it's only in the last few months that I've actually gotten up the bravery and courage to go back and re-listen to his old lectures and videos and all that. And I'm more impressed now than I've ever been. He's so prescient, and his predictions became so true. And I'm just, his death really affected me. I was just finishing up my first book with Vincent Bridges about the Cross of Hendaye, a monument to the end of time. And he and I had discussed the whole entire concept of the Cross of Hendaye and alchemy and transformation. And when I told him about what I had discovered, he was like, "Oh man, you got to get this down into a book as soon as possible." And I actually asked him if he would, the forward to the book. And he said, "Well, if it's a good book, I will, if the money's good, that is." And so I'd always intended to give him like $5,000 to write the forward to my book, but unfortunately he died before I actually got a chance for him to read it. He was too far gone, apparently, for him to read. I did send him the manuscript, but one of his assistants said he was just beyond being able to read at that point.
When did you first meet Terence?
Well, now that's a weird story. I have two weird synchronistic stories with Terence, actually. I didn't meet Terence until he was later in life. What had happened is that I'd met him at his lectures. I'd gone up and introduced myself and had brief conversations with him throughout the 80s. But when I got my radio show in Seattle on a sister station to an NPR station up there, and that's when Food of the Gods, his scholarly effort about psychedelic history and its effect on culture, came out. And I just loved the book. And I wanted so dearly to interview him about the book for my radio show. And I was at the station working, and I decided to go get a coffee or something. And I got in the elevator to go down. A couple people got in the elevator with me to go down to the first floor. And as I'm going down the elevator, I hear that, sing-songy voice, resonating in the tinny elevator room. And I look over and there's Terence. And he had just done an interview with the NPR station, which was our sister station, on Food of the Gods. And I listened to the interview later. It was totally wimpy interview. And I said to him on the way down to the floor, I said, "Listen, man, you remember me?" He said, "I kind of do remember you." And I said, "Listen, man, I got a radio show and I want to interview you. Can you give me an hour?" And he said, "Okay, I will." And so we went over to the studio and we cut an hour interview. And at first, he was like reticent to talk, and he thought maybe I was a goof and wasn't sure what I was. And then I realized that, of course, that within 10 minutes of the starting the interview, that he was, sizing me up and trying to figure out who I was. And I was an unknown person. This is a 92, I think. No, 94. No, 93. And so I started like bringing up people that I knew that, so I could impress him. I mean, I was trying to impress him. And finally, by about halfway into the interview, he like realized that I was the real deal. And so then he started just laying it down. It was like, holy smokes, man, this guy was like blistering the pavement. And when I put the interview up, it was my most popular interview. I went on to do a series of interviews for that station with Terence over the next 2 years that were mind-blowing. I also brought him to the University of Washington, to Kane Hall, where he sold out. I think we sold out 5,000 seats. And he gave a 2-hour lecture called Eros and the Eschaton, which I believe is probably one of his best talks of all time. And it means basically sex and the end of the world. So how can you, miss with that title?
Right.
And so, it was weird. And then the other weird synchronicity I had, and this one was even a little bit more profound. I had been hired. I was living up in the Pacific Northwest in the Seattle area, doing my radio show and being very happy. And I got a call from a guy in Boulder who owned a company called Gaiam, G-A-I-A-M. And he called me up because he was a big fan of my radio show. Apparently he'd heard cassettes and things of my show. And he asked me to fly to Boulder. He wanted to talk to me. So I flew to Boulder, and we had like a 12-hour discussion. Ended up that he wanted to hire me to move to Boulder and become the video development director for his newly forming company. And I agreed because he was paying me a lot. So I moved to Boulder a few months later, and it was my first day at work. It was on Pearl Street in Boulder, the main drag. We had a little tiny building where we were in the back room. There's only 3 employees, and we were putting together this company. It was my very first day. And it was about 2 hours into work, so it was about 10:30. And I asked somebody that was working there, is there a good coffee shop nearby? I'm from Seattle, and I demand a great coffee. And they said, yeah, just go up the street. There's a coffee shop named Penny Lane. And so I go, okay, thank you. And I go out the front door. As I'm going out the front door of the building, I see this guy walking by. And I look at him and I go, oh my God, you are the dead ringer for Terence McKenna. And he looks at me and he goes, some people even think I am Terence McKenna. And I'm like, oh my God, the first person I meet in Boulder, that when I'm out on the street is Terence McKenna, really? And I go, what are you doing here? He goes, well, I did a lecture last night at the University of Colorado. And I said, so where are you going? He goes, well, I heard there's a really good coffee shop up the street named Penny Lane, and I'm headed that way. So I said, well, let's go. I'll buy you coffee. So we go up to the coffee shop, and we walk in the door, and this is the quintessential 1990s Boulder hippie coffee shop. Tie-dye shirts, everybody's got long hair,
right.
Smell of marijuana's in the air. And I didn't even know this shop was this shop. I was just trying to get coffee. So I walk in the door, and everybody in the coffee shop recognizes Terence. And they just go absolutely berserk. And we get no peace while we're trying to have our coffee and talk. And everybody's coming up to him, getting autographs and talking to him about their experiences and everything. And then later, when I went back to that shop, I was never known as Jay. I was only known as that guy that knows Terence McKenna,
Nothing wrong with that, man. It could be worse. It could be worse. And
yeah, so that was the point where I told him about my Hendaye work, and we discussed alchemy and all those really cool subjects. And that was where we bonded. And that was in 1996. Of course, he was dead 4 years later. So really the time that I knew him was really the last part of his life when he was really moving towards an alchemical realization of reality. It was really gratifying because that was the conclusions that I was reaching at the same time, and I hadn't placed psychedelics into the equation at the time, but now I realize that they also play a huge role in European and Western alchemy. So he helped me out a lot, and it was an incredible experience to have gotten to know him. He had the logos, which is the divine use of using language, and he had it, and there's no doubt about it. He could explain the mystical where no one else could, and he could take the effable, the ineffable, and turn it into something that we could all understand. And that's why his death is so tragic, because I think I would have loved to have had him now in his late 70s, hearing his wisdom and telling us, all of that he knows, sort of like, Joseph Campbell got to do, and Alan Watts and that kind of thing. So it was really a tragic loss.
I have to ask you, did you ever do any psychedelics with Terence?
Outside of cannabis, no.
Okay.
He had sort of what he told me was, Jay, I've made that phone call. I don't need to make it anymore.
Right.
So he sort of at the end of his taking doses of mushrooms and DMT at the end of his life, maybe the brain cancer was beginning to affect him. I think it was. I've talked to physicians who've looked at pictures of Terence in the last 5 years of his life, and his eyes are slightly bulging out, and they said that's an indication that his brain is swelling. So I think he'd already had some effects of it by the time that I started my relationship with him. And since alchemy is really about, what happens after you die, I think that might have been one of the reasons why he was so into alchemy at the end there of his life, and really coming to understand it. He said something to me once that was amazing. He said, alchemy is half shamanism and half Western science. That's why it's so interesting. And I think that's right. And I think that's why alchemy is so appealing, is that it is a shamanic experience, but it's wrapped inside the nugget of experiment and trying and failing and retrying and so it is a lot like Western science. So in that way, he was like the pastor over the wedding of the shamanism, i.e., psychedelics, and Western science, and
bringing them together.
That was his goal.
Yeah, that
was his goal.
Yeah, there was something else about Terence, and which is this: he didn't. People, I think, when you hear or read Terence's bio and what he was about, I think the expectation was for him to speak like a hippie or sound like Cheech or Chong, and he didn't. He was well spoken. He took things on to a technical level when he was speaking about the science and things that he was exploring. There was everything else that he dived into, including the I Ching, but he was able to speak about philosophy. He was able to speak about what is happening at a medical level and consciousness in a way that impressed people, where they're, okay, all right, yes, there's psychedelics involved, but obviously this is somebody that comes from an intelligent mindset, and we need to take him serious. And that's where Terence succeeded, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. What he did was he took what was just a hippie interest in psychedelics, and he turned it into into both poetry and science. And he made us realize that these were potent psychological tools that we could use to explore the human mind and therefore expand human culture. And so that was his gift, and he could do that better than anybody. And I remember being at lectures of his. There'd be a couple hundred people, usually at the Ojai Institute there in Southern California, and he would say things, and you could feel like a trembling moving through the crowd as he said something that was so right on, so spot on, that nobody could argue with it. Everybody had to agree with it. And it was usually trying to say that, the psychedelic experience, the mystical experience, was really the most important experience of all of human experiences, more important than sexual experiences, more important than cultural experiences. This was something so profound that he had to spread it across the human endeavor, and he did. It's Terence McKenna and his brother Dennis who gave us the mushroom. Now, they didn't invent it, but they're the ones who taught us how. They wrote the book literally on how to grow mushrooms and how to do it right. And that's how the mushrooms spread all over the world, was because of what Terence and Dennis McKenna did. And I truly believe that what they did was a revolutionary act that changed consciousness for the better forever. And I believe that Terence knew that. And the other thing is the relationship of the mushroom and time. And that was Terence's other great exploration, which is there's this weird and odd relationship with mushrooms and other psychedelics where you go orthogonal. That means at right angles too in mathematics. And so what that means is that you're traveling along a linear timeline of past to the future, always living in the present. But when you do have a mystical experience or a psychedelic experience, frequently you freeze in that moment and you go tangentially off into another place. You go at right angles to the timeline angle. And then in that you come to understand that time itself is an illusion, that we created the construct of time so that we could all get to the airport at the same time to take off, or meet at dinner at the same time to have dinner together. But actually, time is temporal and time is personal. And the mushroom does teach you that. And the greatest people on earth who were keeping track of time were the Mayans. And the Mayans in their area was exactly where the psilocybin mushroom was rediscovered by Gordon Wasson in the 1950s. And also all over the Mayan areas are the mushroom statues, which are these little mushrooms which have faces on them, which are all over the jungles of the Yucatan and southern Mexico and Guatemala. And so we see that there's this strange relationship between the mushroom and time and our understanding of time. And through his mushroom explorations, Terence was able to look into the future, to see into the future. As I have had the same experiences on mushrooms, I've been able to successfully see into the future also. But Terence, when he looked into the future, he saw that we were approaching the climax of history, the point where the human race would begin to change from a human to something else. That this was going to take a limited period of time, and that when we came out the other end, we would be completely different than we were at the beginning. Very similar to the plot of 2001: A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick. And so I say here that we are at the very beginning of Terence's concrescence of history, the climax of history. The COVID thing is what pushed us over, and now we're going to move from one step to another all the way until 2030, when this will be over and we will be a changed race, a different human being, not the same as we are now. And that's tragic, and it's also wonderful. And I can say that if you're under 20 years old, you probably have a high chance of living many hundreds of years with the advances that are going on right now. And Terence knew this. He knew that the technology would piggyback on itself, and one thing would create another thing, and each thing would create another thing until we had this coherent pattern within technology that was moving us towards a place. We are going to become a spacefaring race. We're going to be a race that lives a long time. We're going to be a highly intelligent race. A lot of things are going to be changing very quickly here. It's going to be exhilarating and very unstable and scary and happy and everything in between. And that's what Terence was predicting all those years ago.
And this is the thing. Oh, man, I got a weird echo, Jay. Okay. This is the thing. Ayahuasca was largely introduced into pop culture because of Terence McKenna. But 2012 was largely a Terence McKenna thing, and it wasn't necessarily Mayan. He came to the date of 2012 through I Ching. He died in 2000. He didn't get a chance to see what the world was going to go through with this date of 2012 from his death for the next 12 years. Did he understand how profound these two things were on society?
He did, and he discovered the 2012 date by doing moon cycles within the I Ching, and this was way before he discovered. We didn't really know it until, think about it, maybe the mid 80s about the Mayan calendar. Well, early 80s. We didn't really know. I mean, the Mayans knew about it, but the rest of the world didn't really figure it out.
No, that's right.
Yeah, John Jenkins and several other people had put out books about it. And then Terence realized that he had pinpointed nearly the same exact time as the Mayans within his I Ching time wave equations, and he was blown away by it. And, I personally think that we did change in 2012. I think there was a psychological shift where we stopped believing experts. And it started in 2012, and every year it's increased until this year. I don't think anybody believes any experts anymore. We've just given up on them because they've just been so wrong through this whole COVID thing. And so I think that also is part of this shedding that Terence was always talking about. We're shedding this old world, and we're like a butterfly, and it's breaking apart, and we're going to come out of it, and it's going to be like I said, it is going to be probably a lot like a mushroom trip, like a collective mushroom trip, because in a mushroom trip you really don't know what to expect next. You don't know what thoughts are going to happen next. You don't know, where you're going to be going next. And I think that's kind of what at least the next 3 or 4 years are going to be like. We're going to be being jolted from one event to another as the awakening takes place. And it's going to be all things all at the same time. And I can't tell you how many hours Terence and I spent talking about this event. And when it didn't happen in 2012, I was like, well, I wonder what's going on. But I think that the events of today were set up around that time, and now we're just getting to the real meat of the matter.
Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, Jay Weidner. We are talking about the life and times of Terence McKenna. Incredible mind, incredible researcher, and we're going to go through some not only amazing moments in Terence's life, but we're going to go through some of his thoughts and words too as well. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Jay Weidner is next. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer, Einstein the Ancient Crystal Skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are also Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Tonight, Jay Weidner is here. We're talking about the life and times of Terence McKenna. If you have any questions, hashtag F2BQ is where you want to post it. If you want to comment and hang out on the show, hashtag F2B is the sandbox. Of course, we have 2 chat rooms open, one over at Spreaker, one over at KGRA The Planet. Hello to everybody on YouTube and Facebook and, TuneIn, KGRA, TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, everybody else out there. All right, welcome to the program. And Jay, this is the thing. Today I went through a bunch of stuff, and I was listening to Terence. And what I wanted to do was, grab some audio and play back some audio of some of Terence's very profound moments. And I wanted to get through that. And I ended up going into the zone with Terence. Man, I just got sucked in. And I was moved, and it wasn't, for me, it wasn't about the sensational part of it, which was the amount of the consumption over such a long period of time of these psychedelics, which is fascinating in of itself. But it was his ability to take note and utilize these sessions with shamans and get pen to paper, get his thoughts down, and then relay these messages back to the world about us. He had an uncanny ability to do this, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He was amazing, and many shamans would that I met that had talked to Terence before. I talked to them. They said that he was probably the most profound Westerner that they had ever met. And these were Peruvian, Mayan shamans. And so, yeah, he had that effect. He was incredibly magnetic, and his use of language was beyond it was beyond normal. I mean, I don't think anybody that I've ever known had that ability to take words and bend them and twist them into kind of almost like a movie. It was like you're in your mind, you're almost watching a movie while he's talking, and you can see everything that he's saying, even though what he's saying is so super abstract. So he was, one of the most amazing members of my generation, and it was a real honor to have known him. And, he grew up, in Colorado on the western slopes, in a town called Paonia, which is just a little unknown little place. I think he probably felt that, he was a little bit adequate. He didn't grow up in New York City or, San Francisco or some big town, but it really didn't matter. I mean, it didn't matter because he was so well read, and then he had so many incredible experiences from, being a butterfly catcher in Indonesia to going to that place in Colombia with his brother where all the events and true hallucinations took place, which is an amazing story about his visions of the end of time and the end of our place here on Earth and how we were going to transition into another being. He called it the transcendental object at the end of time, and that he thought that UFOs and flying saucers were the beginning of this event, that we were going to be led into some kind of, intergalactic family that was going to be more psychedelic in nature and less kind of Star Trek-y. He didn't like that kind of stuff. He didn't like Star Trek and that kind of militaristic view of the future. He was more of a person who thought that we were going to re-immerse with nature, which in a way is the opposite of what's about to happen. It seems like we are immersing with the machine at the moment. So, but he also predicted that. So it was like, I feel the same way that Terence did. I'm torn between a future that is high tech and transhumanist, and a future that is us taking our high technology out to the country and becoming more like hippie farmers or something. So I think, we're making those decisions right now as to where we're going. And again, if you go back and you listen to any of Terence's talks, The Light at the End of History or Eros and the Eschaton, you'll see that he's gobsmacking the future. He gets it. He gets it. And because, like I said before, the nature of consciousness that the mushrooms give us as reference to time, we begin to understand what time is. And time isn't 1 second following another second or 1 hour following another hour. Time is a concrescence of being, and each moment you are either advancing yourself and your consciousness, or you're not. And if you're not, you're just not really part of the game. And if you are, then you are increasing your consciousness and awareness, and that is what is going on across the planet. The collective awareness from shows like yours and other things that are going on is exactly what's happening. It's an explosion of information, again, predicted by Terence, based on the works of the great Marshall McLuhan. Each day brings an increase in the amount of information we're getting, and that can cause a lot of confusion. But for those of us who know how to weed our way through all of this confusing information, we come away knowing more than we did when we started. And this is all part of this expanding awareness that he was, part of, the frontline soldier in.
Well, and he exactly right. And one of the things that he stressed, and you just touched upon this right now, is that every culture went through what we are going through now. You think right now we're all intelligent and all-knowing and that everything from the past, they just didn't have it together. You're wrong. We need to learn from the past so we can move forward. Here is a quote addressing exactly what you just said. And we have to put this in context. This is before social media, right? This is before where we are now in 2020. Terence McKenna said this in 1995. Check this out. He says, every culture that has ever existed has operated under the illusion that it understood 95% of reality and that the other 5% will be delivered in the next 18 months. And from Egypt forward, they've been running around believing that they had a perfect grip on things, and yet we look back at every society that predicted us with great smugness at how naive they all were. Well, it never occurs to us, then, that maybe we're whistling in the dark, too, that the universe is stranger than you can suppose, and that openness, that perception imparts is a great joy, a great blessing, because then you can live your life not in service to some fantastic metaphor, but in service to the living mystery. The fact that you're not going to understand it, it is not going to yield to logic or to magic or any other technique that has been developed. And you're just like, holy crap, right? I mean, how... this sounds like it was written this morning for you and I, Jay.
Yeah, because the thing is that the world really is, reality really is more akin to a dream than to any kind of concrete reality. And I think that what Terence always said, which really intrigued me, and I later fell into the works of the anthropologist Robert Lawler, and I think that Terence was heavily influenced by Robert Lawler, was that we had and if you look at the Vedic, the literature from India, the human race had a drug, a plant drug called soma, and that everyone used it. And it's written all about in these ancient books. And we don't know what soma was. But what Terence contended was that for thousands of years, the human race was essentially living in a psychedelic state, and that it was a hunter-gatherer state, and we were just at one with nature. And again, this all agrees with Lawler's view of the world. And then what happened is that we used it all up. There was no more psychedelics, and we came out of that state and we sobered up, to quote Terence. And what happened is that we came out of that state, supposedly in his view, about 6,000 years ago, and we suddenly had no more psychedelics. And so we took the knowledge that the psychedelics had given us about geometry and reality, and we began to concretize it into reality. We began to build buildings and pyramids and create religions that sort of created the same kind of ambiance that the psychedelics created. We discovered forms of meditation and yoga and all of these things that would help us have a natural psychedelic state, because there were no more psychedelics. And it wasn't until the Europeans, came into the Americas and then went south into South America and into Mexico that we rediscovered these psychedelic substances. And then we moved into the, and now that is why we are now moving into the third stage. So the first stage was hunter-gatherer, psychedelically prone, shamanistic culture, to the mechanistic science culture of the last 6,000 years. And now we're reemerging back into that psychedelic culture, only we now have achieved high technology because of the sobriety period. And now we're going into a period that is anybody's guess.
He says here, it's really funny how the universe is connected, because based on what you just said, listen to this quote. Again, 1995. Culture, remember everybody, this is before the internet age and social media and Facebook and directed advertising and everything that we're dealing with today. But listen to this. Culture, quote, culture is a perversion. It fetishizes objects, creates consumer mania. It preaches endless forms of false happiness, endless forms of false understanding in a form of squirrely religions and silly cults. It invites people to diminish themselves and dehumanize themselves by behaving like machines. End quote. Holy crap.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, it's, and if you think about it, when you had just mentioned, right, the visions of the future, what did Terence see that we obviously completely missed? But he had a vision of the future that is playing out today, and he obviously warned us, didn't he?
Yeah, and he wanted us to make the right turn. He really was concerned about this, which, I think all of the great minds of the 20th century, or the late 20th century, I think, like Stanley Kubrick, Marshall McLuhan, William Irwin Thompson, Terence McKenna, so many others, were worried about, which is that we're moving towards this bifurcated state. Are we going to become machines like HAL in 2001? Or are we going to, go through a cultural initiation where we, let loose of all the things that we've been taught sort of like the astronaut going through the abyss at the end of 2001. And by the way, 2001 was one of Terence's favorite films for reasons. And so I think that's exactly what we're standing on the precipice now of choosing two worlds. One world is a world where mandated vaccines with CRISPR technology and nanobites included, which will change the genome of the human race. And maybe that's what the elite or the aliens want, or maybe not. Or we can choose to go back to a more natural lifestyle with our high technology and, grow our own food and be with our families and friends and, occasionally take shrooms and live that kind of life. So that's kind of the point where we're at right now. And we have to choose. And it's a choice. It's a choice for each and every one of us. And I think, in my point of view, and I can't speak for Terence, and I never would do that, but I think, in my point of view, that Terence would have chosen going back into nature, a reimmersion into nature, and taking our high-tech goodies with us. So I don't think he would want a transhumanist future. I know I certainly don't want it. But that's a choice we're going to have to make, because they're coming at us and they're basically telling us that, if you don't take their mandated vaccine, you're not going to be able to travel or get a driver's license or go shopping or have an education. So they're drawing the line in the sand. And Terence also predicted that. He also told me many times that the technocrats would draw a line in the sand and try to turn us from humans into machines. And that was something that we had to be very wary of.
He says here, again, addressing exactly what you're saying, if he knew the society that we have today, especially the last 30 years, because now we have almost two generations now that have grown up only with the internet. That's a pretty scary thought when you think about it. You and I remember what it was like before the internet, and we have something to compare it to. But today, if you're 30 years old, 25 years old, a young adult, you have only experienced a world of the internet and people walking around staring at their phones all day long. Well, he said this, quote, "Part of what is wrong with our society and hence with ourselves is that we consume images. We don't produce them. We need to produce, not consume media," end quote. And what is so heavy about that is, and what I think Terence is saying here very clearly, is that we need to be painters, right? We need to be creative. We need to do that with ourselves instead of doing nothing with ourselves and just observing, watching television, or, consuming the media instead of creating it. Profound, strong words right there from Terence.
Yeah, it's kind of, I've come to the point where I've, again, heavily influenced by Terence, that the civil war that is maybe coming down upon us is not going to be a civil war of left versus right, or conservative versus liberal. It's going to be the happy people and against the unhappy people. And the thing is that if you think about what Terence is doing, he's really spreading happiness. That's what he's doing with teaching people how to grow mushrooms in their homes. That's what mushrooms do. We've done many, there have been many psychological and psychiatric tests in the last few years of people taking mushrooms, and they've cured depression, they've cured anxiety. People that can't go out of their house because they're too afraid of the outside world have been cured of that. Iraqi war vets have had their war, things that have happened to them in the war have been healed. And so, you can't really take mushrooms if you're an unhappy person, because you'll have a bad trip. because it's all about, setup.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so I really do believe that is what's going on here, is that the unhappy people are doing everything they can to destroy the happiness of the happy people. And, we just want to, listen to music and, take mushrooms and be with our friends and family and have good sex and good food and have a nice time. And the unhappy people just don't know how to have a nice time. And so we're going to have to decide what we're going to do with all these unhappy people. Frankly, I wish they would become happy. And I know Terence would have liked that too. Terence was a very happy person, as I am. And, the unhappy people just have no sense of adventure or questioning things or anything. And so I think that in the end, right now, we're going to have to decide what we're going to do. Are we going to be a happy human race, or are we going to be an unhappy human race?
And here is another, I'm going to read, this is short, and we are going to need to talk about this after the break. It's too heavy. This might be his best, and that says a lot. Quote, "My technique, which I recommend to you, is don't believe anything. If you believe in something, you are automatically precluded from believing its opposite." End quote. Right? Knocked out of the park.
Yeah, that made my brain go smooth.
Yeah, right. Anybody on social media today needs to read that quote. Right? I mean, and it's only because the divisiveness today is because this is what's happening. He's warning us right here. Nobody wants to listen to anybody else. Everything is only in your bubble. You are only believing that. And because of that, everybody else, the rest of the planet, is crazy and wrong. And that is about as unhealthy as it gets. And that's where we find ourselves today, right here, not only in this country, Jay, but around the world, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what psychedelics do. They blow your bubbles up. And I think that's what Terence wanted to do. That's what mystical experiences do, too. They blow all your own bubbles up. You realize that you really don't understand the world. And that's a good thing.
It's fascinating to me. You know what else is fascinating? Because exactly what he's saying here. It doesn't matter what you do. You go through this, Jay, on social media. I watch it. All you have to do is type in a word, and you get an argument, right? Type in a word. Puppies. You've got to fight. It's crazy to me that is where we are today. Let's take our break right here. Tonight, Jay Weidner, The Life and Times of Terence McKenna. It's going to be a fascinating show. We're just getting started. We'll be right back. More of Jay after this short break. This is Fade to Black.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
Including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jay Weidner, The Life and Times of Terence McKenna. Tomorrow night, Carolyn Ford is going to be here talking about crystal skulls and the power that they may possess. We'll be doing that tomorrow night. Thursday night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. Tonight, it's all about Jay Weidner and Terence McKenna. Jay, I just, on a personal level, what is it like to sit down with a mind like Terence and try to attempt to start a conversation? I mean, you're at the losing end already. How do you get Terence's attention?
It was tough. He definitely, and he deserved it. He had a superior attitude. He was a Scorpio, so he could be incredibly acerbic and sarcastic. He was well known for his sarcasm, and he was not easily. It wasn't easy to impress him, and so I had to, really pull out all the guns to impress him, to get him, to understand that I was maybe not his equal, but I could at least play in the same sandbox with him, and so that took a while. That was probably the hardest part of my struggle. And but he eventually, he came around, especially around Alchemy and the Cross of Hendaye. And he thought that was just incredibly fascinating. Couldn't believe that I discovered something about it. And, it reinforced his own view, of course, of the cyclic nature of reality. And so to see that there was a cross in the south of France over 400 years old, which was, reinforcing all the things that he had thought, I think it really made him change his mind about me.
There is when we talk about, and he used to drive this point home, he talked about a lot about not believing in anything. And there was a danger in that. And he kept driving. He would go back to this point because he was called out on it quite a bit. And there was a couple of statements that he made about science. When you get into consciousness and the universe and trying to discover the wonder of it all, he felt that science was falling short there. And then, like this quote here, continuing with your point that you just made, we are asked by science to believe that the entire universe sprang from nothingness. and at a single point and for no discernible reason. This notion is the limit case for believability. In other words, if you can believe this, you can believe anything. And I think that's one of the best points, is that you need to have a belief system and trust in yourself. That's fine, but you need to always have open ears and an open mind and constantly on a quest for knowledge, and you can't close yourself down. You need to do that. And I think that's the point that he always tried to make, right?
Yeah, he used to always say, science likes to play out that they understand what's going on. But then they've got this thing called the Big Bang. And in the Big Bang, what they're telling us is that everything you see in the entire universe all came out of a little tiny explosion that was about the size of a dime. And they won't tell us what was here before that explosion. So in other words, science is saying, we can explain everything there is if you just give us one free miracle. If you just give us that one free miracle called the Big Bang, then we got the rest of it down, baby.
Yeah, and true. Yeah, that's right. And today, it's really funny how you hear astrophysicists and physicists and astronomers, they're kind of like trying to have another discussion here, right? And they're trying to get away from the Big Bang because of not only its believability, because they've been selling it for so long, and it is now, dogma that is in stone, that Einstein's calculations only go back so far, and then they just jumble and don't make any sense. And I'm talking about back to the beginning. They wind it back. Well, they've been at that stone wall for such a long time now that just maybe there's something else here theoretically that we need to discuss, and it's not about the Big Bang. And he says this. Hold on, I want to get to. Okay, this is what he says about that. Oh man, about science. He says the main difference between our world and the world that science tells us we're living in is that science denies the quirky, freaky, cosmic giggle, high-plottedness, completely improbable, totally quirky humor that binds everything together. And that makes it something other than an engine in which atoms blindly run, end quote. It's just, oh, man. And it's strong, man.
But that's what I think. I think that the old physical view of physics of the universe with the Big Bang and a beginning, and now we're here at the 13 billion years and all that. I think that's wrong, and I think science is moving ever more closely to a view of a plasma universe. And there's a great physicist named Alvins who postulated that the universe is plasma. And then if you look at through the Hubble Space Telescope and you look at what they call Birkeland currents, which is these long, extended electrical plasma fields that exist between galaxies, and then you look at blood plasma, microscope imagery of human blood plasma, you see that we also have these weird things that look just like Birkeland currents in us. And this has made me come to realize that the universe may actually be alive. It may actually be something that is living and that is really electrical. Now, what's interesting about that is that psychedelics let us get a glimpse of this plasma universe that we normally cannot see. And so I think that Terence, in a heavy-duty psychedelic experience, actually, and I got this from some of my talks with him, he actually saw the plasma universe and began realizing that the mechanical universe was completely flawed. It had nothing to do with the universe was alive, just like the oceans are alive with fish that flow with the water. So is the universe alive with an invisible ocean called plasma. And alchemy actually would agree with that. In alchemy, they say can't understand alchemy until you understand the secret fire. And they also say that the secret fire is the fire that does not burn, but you can see it. And that would be plasma. Plasma does not burn. It is fire, and you can see it. And so I think Terence accidentally got a view of that science had not really been explained while he was alive. I mean, Alvin's had been around, but I don't think he'd been translated to English yet. And so I think that through pure mystical experience, Terence McKenna actually saw the actual true physical nature of our universe, one that is alchemical in nature. And again, I think that was why he was going into alchemy at the end there, because he realized that it was truly the only science that explained what he saw in his mystical experiences.
And he also felt that the belief, if you are going to have a belief, it's fine if you experience the belief, right? Which is what he did, like with the I Ching, or not only with ayahuasca and experiencing these parallel worlds, but his belief in what was going on was because he went through the experience. It wasn't something that he had heard from somebody else. And I am going to, well, go ahead.
No, you're right. And, you got to remember, Terence was, he grew up Catholic. I grew up Catholic. And Catholicism is a weird religion where the Mass itself almost induces a mystical experience with the Gregorian chants and the incense and all of that. So when you're young and, it has this weird influence on you. And I don't think it's an accident that a lot of the great modern philosophers of the alternative philosophers like Marshall McLuhan and William Irwin Thompson and Terence McKenna and Robert Anton Wilson and Timothy Leary were all ex-Catholics. And I think that, and I am too, and I think that that changes the way you think. And when you finally come to realize, that, Catholicism probably is not the real story of what's going on, then you realize that probably no one has the real story of what's going on. And the psychedelic experience just really confirms that there really is a kind of mystical uncertainty about the universe. And what's going on today with the COVID and all that is we are being shown firsthand that the experts that we always believed knew everything actually don't know anything. And that the only thing that we can be sure of is that there's nothing that we can be sure of. And that would be a quote that Terence would definitely approve of. And I think that this whole crisis that we've been going through is going to make us more dependent on our own intuition. And by doing that, we're going to make that intuition grow more powerful, and we'll begin making more and more right decisions without the need of experts. And I think, again, these experts see the world in this mechanistic form that Terence would have rejected wholeheartedly, and I do too. I do not believe that the world is a giant engine the way that Newton and Einstein thought of it. I believe that the world is an ebbing and flowing of nature and natural processes wherever you go. And I, have to say that I learned to feel that through the psychedelic experiences that I had. I owe a great deal to those experiences. And, I did the heroic dose of 5 grams in a dark room, and it did have a profound effect on me. And I don't recommend everybody do that.
No.
But I do recommend that if you're a happy person and you're stable and you can create a good circumstances before you do it, then I would recommend doing a heroic dose. But don't base it on anything I say. You should base it on your own intuition. But again, Terence did not believe that everybody should take drugs. That is not what he believed. He did not believe that anyone should take any drug that wasn't organic. In other words, no synthetic drugs. He did do DMT a few times, but for the most part, it was ayahuasca and mushrooms and cannabis. And he had a rule. And his rule was that it had to have, anything you take had to have at least 1,000 years of human use before you should take it. And so he wouldn't take anything that did not have at least 1,000-year history of human use. And that makes a lot of sense.
1,000-year rule. 1,000-year rule. Yeah.
1,000-year rule.
Yeah. I want to get into I Ching, and we're going to get to that in just a second, and a couple of other things. But I've got this quote that I don't want to get away from us because it's exactly what we are talking about right here. And he says this: I have been vehemently accused by people who didn't understand me of not believing in anything. I don't believe in anything. This is not a statement of existential hopelessness for you to shed light a candle for me at night. It's a strategy for not getting bogged down in some weird trip. After all, what is the basis for believing anything? I mean, you should understand, you are a monkey in some kind of biological situation where everything has been evolved to serve the economy of survival. This is not a philosophy course. So belief is a curious reaction to the present at hand. It isn't to be believed. It is to be dealt with, experienced, and modeled. End quote. That is about as heavy and as true to the course as it can be, right?
Yeah, I think that's what he really wanted to do. Was he didn't want. Then that's what we're going through right now. We're getting rid of all these heavy weights that we've been carrying with us that were put on us by historical events, including religion and philosophy. And really and truly, what did those people really know that invented our religions? The religions don't really have much in the way of mysticism in them, and they're just kind of really just political dogmas for the most part, and all of them. And maybe Taoism and maybe a little bit of Buddhism, but the rest of them are really just political dogmas teaching you, really dictating to you how to live your life. And again, there's no history of psychedelic use with any of these religions, although Graham Hancock has pointed out that Moses may have had a psychedelic experience up on Mount Sinai. But and Graham Hancock, by the way, has really been the person who's kind of taken up the baton of Terence in his book Supernatural. He talks all about the history of psychedelics and his own experiences. And so I'm grateful that a mind like Graham Hancock is also exploring this. I think Terence would have been grateful for the assistance of having another intellectual look at this subject and realize how really important it is. Graham actually goes, and I think Terence would also agree with this, that the alien experience is not really creatures from other planets, but these creatures that occupy parallel realities with us here right now on this planet. That they've always been here, and that when you take psychedelics, you're allowed to see them and interact with them. And then there's mystics who can interact and see these beings without taking psychedelics. But we've let a lot of our skills atrophy. Terence also knew that, and he knew that psychedelics were a way to kind of kick the dust off of some of our old talents and let them reemerge. What would be better, as a hunter-gatherer than to have intuition and be able to tell, where the animals and the plants that you're looking for to eat are. And we know from the works of Rupert Sheldrake that animals actually do possess a great deal of intuitive sense. In other words, bears in Alaska seem to know right when the salmon are arriving. As soon as the salmon arrive, the bears all turn and start walking towards the water, even if the salmon are arriving late or early. And Rupert Sheldrake has also shown that dogs seem to know when their owners are coming home. Long before the owner even knows that he's about to come home, the dog is ready and waiting for the owner. And so nature is this feedback system. And I think that, Terence knew that. And it's not just humans walking around in space. It's humans walking around emitting pheromones, which are odor sensors. There are histamines in the air that we're processing. There's this gigantic, huge, invisible world that we're walking around in, and we don't know it. And once you understand it, of course you can't believe in anything because there's so much we don't know.
I asked Graham, it's a couple of years ago, and you know Graham pretty well, and I know Graham, and I just said, Graham, how many ayahuasca ceremonies have you done? Right? Jay, he looks right at me. 75.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Let's table that for now. One of the things when we talk about this that I remember Terence saying, this was at a conference, but he was talking about a ceremony that he had done in South America, and he says we were drinking ayahuasca, a lot of it, right? Now, and this is the thing. When Terence says that, I think all of us, you got to go into pause mode, because for Terence to say a lot, his version of a lot and my version of a lot are two different measurements for sure. But he said that he would do this to get to the level that he needed to get to, including what happened with the I Ching. He's discussed this publicly quite a bit, that he had to get to a state that I believe took a week or two of psychedelics to get to the point where he understood what he was looking at with the I Ching, right?
Yeah, he literally took psychedelics every day for like 3 weeks,
right?
Which I can't imagine. Increasing the dosage every day so that it would do the effect that he was looking for, and then he began seeing these cycles within the I Ching, and he realized that if he kept extrapolating out these cycles, that he could see the rhythm of nature, the rhythm of time, and so what he did was he took the nuclear explosion in August 1945 at Trinity. I think it was August, it may have been July of 1945. And so he said that was probably the most seminal event of our modern era. And he began taking the I Ching and going backwards and forwards from that moment using these lunar cycles that the Chinese alchemists would use. And he would hit certain dates, like, the Great Fire of London in 1666, and going backwards, he was hitting all these relevant dates using this thing. So then he decided to go forward with it and see if he could, detect future events. And he had a few hits of events, and then it came out that the final moon cycle of this current set would come out to be in 2012. And then he discovered the Mayan calendar a few years later and realized that they must have been looking at the same cycles that he was looking at, and that because they were really running concurrently with his own cycle. And so he concluded that this was a psychedelic knowledge that the mushroom itself was giving, and that since the Mayans were also consumers of the mushroom, they had reached the same conclusion that he had in separate occasions, which was kind of a weird validation of everything that he was thinking. And so whether he didn't believe in it per se, but he believed that there was a coincidence that may not have been a coincidence. It may have been, he believed that the mushroom has an intelligence that it conveys, and that it's an organic intelligence. It's of the planet, of the Sophia knowledge, that the planet itself is imbued with an intelligence, and that it uses the mushrooms and other psychedelics to convey that intelligence to us.
Let's take our break right here, Jay. And when we come back, I want to dive into the I Ching and the software that he developed along with Peter Meyer, Time Wave Zero, which, again, it enabled Terence to analytically and scientifically look at the I Ching to confirm and help him go back in time, like you were just describing there, and also looking forward. When he first started doing this, Jay, I think it's very important to note here that he did this before his knowledge of the Mayan calendar and the dates that the Mayans were putting out there. It only helped him confirm the visions that he got with the I Ching, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Let's take our break right here. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Jay Weidner, The Life and Times of Terence McKenna. When we come back, we're going to do a deep dive into the I Ching. It's absolutely incredible. Stay with us. This is Fade to Black.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend. Let's face it, you've always wanted to do a sky watch and see your first UFO. Today, it's easy. Just get your own HP7 3B Cobalt Jimmy Church Edition night vision goggles from Hoffman's Optics. This is the same U.S. military system that I use, featuring a Generation 3 blue phosphor image tube. That's right, it's blue, not black and green. This is the only blue system in the world, and it's waterproof, lightweight, combat-proof, simple to use, and ready to go.
Hoffman's Optics helped create night vision sky watches, and now you can see what everyone has been talking about each night from your own backyard. Just call 760-231-9929. That's 760-231-9929. You can click on the banners on our site or visit UFOnightvisiongoggles.com. That's UFOnightvisiongoggles.com. Go back, Lee Tappy.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRAradio.com.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jay Weidner. We're talking about the life and times of Terence McKenna. We're going to jump into the I Ching here. And it is of my, and I've studied this about as closely as I can, Jay. It gets complex, and Terence was a complex mind. And he liked to talk about complexity and creativity and the human mind. And he felt that, and obviously coming from these ceremonies that he had done over the years, his thought, and you can step in, I don't want to speak for Terence, and neither do you, and you can jump in and correct me, but this was my opinion, is that he felt that the universe was built for consciousness. It was built for creativity. It was an engine that ran on that. And the more creative we got, the more complex the universe got. And he felt that there were ebbs and flows of creativity going back through time. As he was looking at the I Ching, he saw the patterns of creativity dipping and rising. And that's where he felt that the randomness of that was showing that he was right. These ideas, this philosophy that he had concluded to, that the universe was built on that, not built on chemicals and science. It was built for creativity. Now, let's start there. Am I right in understanding Terence in this way?
I would say, yeah, that's pretty close. what he thought. He thought that he thought he had this idea through his work with the I Ching that time was speeding up and that complexity was growing. And so what he meant by that was not that, a second today is shorter than a second was 100 years ago, or an hour today is shorter than an hour was 100 years ago. He's saying that there's more events going in the hour today than there was in an hour 100 years ago. And so these events are ever increasing in complexity. And boy, do we know that today by watching the world, that increase of complexity was causing time to increase or to speed up. And he got all of this from the I Ching. And what he believed the I Ching was, again, I'm not talking for him, I'm just telling you what he told me, was that when you do the I Ching or even like the Tarot, what you're doing is you're taking a snapshot of a future, a possible future. And any number of events can intervene between now and that possible future to change that possible future. But within the snapshot of the moment, the I Ching would be very correct in what it was predicting, because it was based on what he thought was the idea, or the coincidence, I should say, that there's 64 codons in the DNA, and there's 64
symbols,
different. What do they call it? I'm having a mind fart. In the I Ching, and there were 64 places on the chessboard.
Hexagrams.
And that chess also is a game that plays out the future.
That's right. 64 hexagrams in the I Ching.
Thank you. These were all remnants of an ancient civilization that was psychedelically based, that again had figured all of this out, just like he had figured a lot of it out through the psychedelic experience. And he thought that the I Ching was in some ways proof that in ancient China at some point they did have access to psychedelic substances. And if you go and you look at the philosophy that created the I Ching, which would be Taoism, you see in the ancient books, the Taoist masters actually said that they did have substances that they took that would help them gain enlightenment, but that the emperors of China would come after them and kill them, and so they stopped doing the substances and just started doing practices to try to gain the same effect, because they were tired of getting killed by the emperors. And and so the whole idea that the I Ching is this ancient divination system born out of a psychedelic culture was, very close to Terence, and he used that to create the Time Wave Zero software with Peter Myers, and it's fascinating. And I think we should actually find Peter Myers. I think he's still around, and find out what the Time Wave Zero software is talking about, the events that are happening right now. Be very interesting.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. And there's something else I wanted to ask you that I think that Terence wanted to convey. I think that he felt that with Time Wave Zero and the I Ching and some of these dates, you mentioned Hiroshima, which is a crucial date, and how he came to 2012. More on that in just a second. But that Terence felt, because of the complexity of creativity reaching its maximum, that end time isn't an end of the world in 2012, but it is our brains and consciousness finally coming together and exploding into a singularity of the mind, that we would finally understand the mind and we would know what the brain and its complexity was all about. And that's what Terence was referring to when that date was finally going to happen. It wasn't about the end of the world, and it wasn't a singularity of artificial intelligence and a technocracy. It was the exact opposite, right? It was the complexity of the mind finally coming together, and we would understand what a consciousness was.
Yeah, at his heart, he was just a hippie, and I think what he really wanted was kind of like I said, a hippie paradise where we would live day to day. We wouldn't be in the corporate world. We'd be growing our own food and taking care of ourselves in more of a family and friends type of atmosphere, and that we would use psychedelics and technology to move forward as a race, but not become machines, and that the human race had to stay human as we became spacefarers, and we moved out into the outer space and into the galaxy, and began to take our natural reign and as a part of the galactic neighborhood. And I think that he would not have liked a lot of the transhumanism and the technocracy that we're seeing today. I just don't think that Terence would have liked that. I think he was more in favor of a natural approach.
Now, you mentioned earlier, now's the time to get to this, that here we are in 2020, we're moving into 2021, and we'll get this year behind us somehow. that is going to happen, but that 2030 is a year that we need to focus on too. How does this apply back to Terence and the I Ching and the timeline that he was telling us about?
I really don't know. Kind of the interest in Terence's work has fallen off. That's one of the reasons I'm doing this show. Mm-hmm. I want to reinvigorate the interest in Terence's work. I would like to find out what the time wave is saying about this particular time wave or time period. I bet it is going to be spot on. But what we're going through now is what the alchemists always talked about was that there's going to be this time in the future where we're going to transform from what we are to something better and bigger. And I believe that that is the event that we are in right now. I know that's what Terence thought also, and that all of these things, technology, psychedelics, the ability to communicate, the expanding consciousness, and the ever-increasing complexity would create a different kind of human being than the warrior, destroy nature kind of human being that we've had in the past. And I now believe that I can actually see how that is going to unfold, and I believe that it's going to start here soon. We're going to face incredible crises over the next few years. I'd like to point out that every 80 years, the United States goes through a very tumultuous change. 160 years ago, or two 80-year cycles ago, it was 1860. The Civil War started in 1861. I would point out that one 80-year cycle ago was 1940, and World War II started in 1941. And we are now at the beginning of another 80-year cycle that has all been pointed out by the two historians, Strauss and Howe, in their book, The Fourth Turning, which I don't know if Terence had a chance to read that book, but I bet he would have loved it. And so we've had two wars exactly on those marks. And so I pray we don't have a war in 2021, but I'm looking for a huge amount of sudden change and disclosure and scientific inventions and crazy creativity to emerge over the next 9 years or so. And we're going to come out the other end. Now, what the establishment wants is, in 2030 is that we're all inside the smart cities, driverless cars, we're all jacked into the internet, and we can access Google with a thought, and we have machine chips inside of us. And this is what the technocrats, this is their wet dream of what they want to have happen here. And they're pushing very much for that. They are getting pushback from people like Elon Musk and others, but they seem like they are determined to push us into that future. And so, again, that's another reason why I'm trying to bring Terence's philosophy back of a more natural future, a less technocratic future, a future where we don't become machines, but we become complex organic entities able to create and intuit our future and regain our psychic abilities and all the things that have atrophied over the 6,000 years of sobriety, as Terence would say, where we created this mechanistic technological world. And now we're going to shed that technological, mechanical, we're not shedding it, we're going to keep it, and we're going to advance on it, but we're not going to let that be the driving force behind our consciousness. We're going to let other things that are more important become part of that consciousness. And maybe possibly we will be in contact with interdimensional beings very soon here, or alien life forms. Is about to happen.
Well, we've wanted that since the dawn of man, right? That is there's three fundamental questions, right? How did we get here? Who are we? And are we alone? Right? I mean, that's really it. And check this quote out from Terence. Speaking of that, perfect timing. Quote, right here and now, one quanta away, there is a raging universe of active intelligence that is transhuman, hyperdimensional, and extremely alien. What is driving religious feeling today is a wish for contact with this other universe. Whoo!
Right on.
Right on. And you know what? Let me say this, Jay. I want your comment on this. With everything that we are going through right now in the media, UFOs in the media, television, documentaries, this show, the productions that you have done, the question of contact is coming at us not only through mass media, but it's coming at us through science and exoplanets and fast radio burst and the question of, is there life out there? We got the news yesterday about Venus, right? It is every day now. It is front and center for pop culture. This is exactly what Terence is talking about here, right? We are going through this. We want this contact, don't we?
We do, and again, you can have that contact, with these extra dimensional beings. I've had the contact with them, and I know Terence did too, and you probably have also. The problem isn't the contact. The problem is the context. So we can have a contact. I can have a contact with an extra dimensional being and then call you up and, blab endlessly about what I was told. But you listening will not have any context for what I'm saying. And so it's kind of useless. And so what we need to have is a more like a phone call than a dream. A psychedelic state or a mystical state is more like a dream, and what we really yearn for is a phone call, a real, true communication. And I think actually we're on the edge of it. if it hasn't already happened, which it may have. They're acting as if it's already happened and that they're just waiting to tell us in some way.
Should everybody on this planet, Jay, and I mean everybody, should everybody have an ayahuasca ceremony? 7.5 billion people?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think there's a lot of people that they would literally go out of their minds and never recover. I think only the brave and the happy can endure such a thing. But then again, only the brave and happy can, travel the world and be okay with it. So right now we see that the world is being bifurcated into the terrified and the non-terrified. And, the terrified don't want to come out of their homes, and they want to put all sorts of protection gear on them. And that's fine. Go for it. I have no problem with that. I'm not particularly going to do that. I'm not particularly terrified of what's going on. And I think that the world is dividing, and Terence would really agree with this statement. I think the world is being divided into the courageous and the not courageous. And as Terence would say, nature loves the courageous and it removes barriers to the courageous. And I can speak and testify that that is absolutely true. When I have gotten over my fears personally and done something that was incredibly courageous, I have discovered that nature reacts to it by granting me favors. And I think Terence knew that too. And I think that's what happens with courageous people is they do a courageous act and then they realize that they've been granted favors by nature. And that encourages them to make more courageous acts. And then pretty soon, it's only the courageous people that are actually doing anything. And that's where we are right now. And they have scared the living daylights out of everybody. And right now, the people that are emerging to leave this world into the next world are going to be the courageous.
I can't say who, so respect me for that, for saying this. I can't say who. But last month, I'm speaking with a pretty big-time Hollywood director, okay? Put that in the back of your mind. And he said to me that last year, he had an ayahuasca ceremony one time. I said, oh, really? Tell me about it. And he said, it scared the crap out of me. I said, why? And he goes, well, I said, did you see the beings? He goes, see the beings? Man, I walked around in this world. I made contact with aliens, and it scared the crap out of me. I said, why? And he goes, it's not what they said or anything. It's not about that. It's that it was real. I said, what do you mean? He said, it was real. There's no question about it. I went and visited a parallel world. It exists. I made contact with aliens, and I spoke to them. I said, did you remember? He goes, man, I remember everything. Oh, it wasn't ayahuasca. I'm sorry. It was DMT. And anyway, I said, did you? I remember everything. It was real, man. And it scared me. It exists. And it stopped me in my tracks, Jay. This is somebody that I respect a lot. That was absolutely, be careful what you wish for, right? You want the experience, and then you find out that what everybody else is talking about out there is real, that there is a parallel dimension to this world that you can go and visit. And according to this gentleman and others, but according to him directly, it's as physical as anything else. And it stopped me in my tracks. And Terence said, and we'll leave on this note. Terence said, I don't have the quote in front of me, but he said that the alien contact experience with ayahuasca and DMT is identical, a nearly identical picture that you can paint with everybody that has had the experience. The phenomenon is real. And that's coming from Terence, that this is actual alien contact.
I would totally agree with that. I know Graham Hancock would agree with that. And it really changes the way that you look at the universe. And you don't see it as spaceships going through space. You see it as intermingling of dimensions in space with beings from both sides, sometimes able to communicate with each other. And both sides of this parallel universe both yearn to communicate with the other side. It's one of the biggest things about it. And when we ignore these other beings, they're really disappointed in us. And when and the same thing is true when they ignore us. And so what we want to do is encourage this interaction between these dimensions so that we can communicate and get real knowledge. Remember, Francis Crick, who discovered the shape of the DNA, discovered that in a dream. That wasn't something that he did as a physical experiment. It came to him as a dream. So the knowledge comes to us. True knowledge can come to us in ways that are completely unexpected.
What's next for you, Jay? What are you working on?
I'm thinking about doing a kind of a mind-blowing short film about mysticism and the plasma universe and where we are headed as a species.
And how far along in development is this? Is it an idea, or are you ready to pull the trigger?
I'm writing the script right now. I've got the money to do it. I've got the equipment to do it. I've got the skill to do it. It's just that I want to make sure I do it right because, at this stage, art is also going to be transformed very quickly here by technology. So we also have to be aware of that. That may be what your director friend is afraid of too. May have seen that he may not have a job in a few years because AI will be making movies.
Thank you so much, man. It's great to have you back on the show, and I miss our conversations, Jay. And be safe and be well, and all my best to Sharon.
You too.
The best, Jay Weidner. Now, for everybody, it's very simple. Just go to sacredmysteries.com. All of Jay's movies are there. Everything that he is constantly working on, all of Sharon's work is there too as well. sacredmysteries.com. With that, I'm going to take a quick break. And I've been watching the phones ring off the hook all through the show tonight. So we'll go to open lines next. 747-228-2051. What a great show tonight. The Life and Times of Terence McKenna. Thank you, Jay. Great conversation. 747-228-2051. I'll be right back with your phone calls. Stay with me.
Here, and you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JamieChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. I want to thank Jay Weidner. Great conversation tonight. The life and times of Terence McKenna. I cannot imagine what it would be like to sit down and have a conversation with Terence. And wow, what a guest he would make for the show. His outlook, and I encourage anybody and everybody to go and watch some of his conferences, listen to his recordings, his interviews that he has done over the years. Just extraordinary. And when I started to pick up on Terence, he was still alive then, and I was able to see and read things from him when they were still current. And I have never, look, I just want to be clear here. I've said this enough. I have never done an ayahuasca ceremony. I have not gone down the DMT road. The opportunities have been there. And one day, right situation, the right moment, I've got to go and check it out at least once and see what's going on there. I would like to be able to comment on it firsthand. But that being said, I am looking at Mark Tarana posted a great question here. Yes, he can do that from time to time. But he says, is human spiritual consciousness being suppressed by today's society? And I would say yes and no. I think the quest for what consciousness is out there stronger than ever before, because we know now that it is one of the great unknowns. Physicists don't have a clue. Science doesn't have a clue. The spiritual community, which has been out there on this quest for what consciousness is, I think it's right there. Technology today, and I've been talking about this a lot lately, technology today is starting to, I think suppress is the right word, where the answers for the generation that is below us right now, the younger generations, the world for them is the internet. And that's where they get all of their answers. That's where their relationships are built. It's not only their entertainment, but it is their community. It is the world for them as it exists today is on the internet. What does that do with consciousness? I don't know. And is there a quest for spirituality and consciousness and what it is in these young people of today that are living their life on the internet? I don't know. And only time's going to tell. 747-228-2051. If you're on hold, I'll get to you in just a second. But that is one of the points that Jay has been bringing up, not only on this program today, but in social media, about what these next 10 years are going to be. We have to understand that we have created this world for our children today, and I'm talking about the world of social media and the internet, the digital age, the internet age, and the consequences of that we don't know yet. And certainly we didn't know in 1995 when all of this started to kick off and go crazy. And what it has developed into, I don't know. And today with something like Kim Kardashian to make these statements, especially on the heels of what I've been talking about for the last 5 years, and certainly bringing forward over the last couple of weeks and this week, is that I'm alarmed. I'm alarmed, and I'm not comfortable with the direction of the mind. It's being controlled. And this is not a 1984 George Orwellian, although it is, a scenario. I'm not bringing that up. I'm talking about the reality of today. This is not conspiracy theory, crazy talk, tinfoil hat stuff. We are going through this right now as a society, as a country, and as a world. So what do? Is there the ability to put the car in reverse and try to fix things? Have we gone too far? Do we now have to allow it to just play out and see what happens? Can we expect Facebook and Google and Twitter and Instagram and these other social media internet companies to accept responsibility and to fix things? Is that a possibility? I don't know if they care. And and all of the news organizations out there that are working with the social media companies in lockstep, they see what's going on. They push the boundaries, especially over the last 5 years. They really push the boundaries. Now it's blowing up. I don't know what the end game is. I don't. So with that, I want to thank Jay. Great conversation. Let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Faded Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy, what's up? Joe, Staten Island.
Hi, how are you, Joe?
I could not have put on your show on a better night because that man speaking like that hippie mystic dude. Because I was just trying to get called up Santana on your show because I could use that type of dude as well by his interviews I heard. That's a sign. It's a suggestion, not telling me what to do. This is your thing. I'm down with it, Jimmy. I'm totally down with it.
Well, and but you've lived through it too, and you're at an age where you remember the before and the after. So now you are able to see both sides.
It's like one time I misplaced my phone, right? And we used to say, oh, God, don't go out with your phone for safety, for protecting you. So dependent on over the last 8 years, right?
Right.
Baby.
Right.
Smartphone. I said, I went out and said, screw it. When I was a kid, 18, I went out to the city for the night, alone on the subway, tried to meet a few young ladies, dance, have a good amount of drinks that I wanted, and made it home on the subway, by the way, without a smartphone.
Did you find your phone?
Yeah, you misplace things, how it is. But one thing I can say about the effects, you might say the symptoms of this, as in my case and I think many others, that we are shifting so much that we become fascinated by something like new toys, like a kid in a toy store. Now I want this, I want that. You don't know what you want. That sometimes you're moving so fast, you want to get into so many things to actually put things down that I know are in my house, right? Okay, follow this?
Mm-hmm.
And I put it down, and it doesn't even hide it. And I can't even find them, but I know I'm looking right in front of me somewhere. Sooner or later, they're going to just like pop up when I least expect it. I'm saying the idea of like memory, right? And being distracted. I mean, feeling like, you know, as fresh as like almost like a dream.
Well, that's it. But that's exactly my point, Joe. That's exactly my point. And how do we get back off of that? I think that's the question. Oh, man, a lot of noise there. Joe, I want to thank you for the phone call. And
Hold on. Let me say one thing.
Sure.
One thing. Blood purification and liver purification. Milk fish on red clover. You got to get your organs in shape as well as your blood and cleanse the toxicities and get the metal out of your head. 2 hours suggest they say cilantro is good for that too. You pull all the toxins in the crap and you clean your system, and you'd be surprised how good you start to feel and how your mind starts to get some clarity. That's a suggestion. I've been doing it a long time.
There you go, Joe. Thank you for the phone call. I got to agree with that, man. Clean out your system. Clean it out. Clean out your system. Clean it out. Get back to zero. I've done it a few times now, and it's the only way to go. I wanted to say this before I get back to the phone calls. I don't want to sound like I don't want to sound like my parents. I don't want to sound like my grandparents. I just don't want to do that. But the fact is, the things that I did daily all the way through to 1995, right? When the internet came along and changed things for all of us. But every day was a quest for an adventure. Whether it was going to the movies, going out to dinner as an adult, hanging out with friends, going to a club, going to see music, going out. Everything was outside of the house. Out. Yeah, I stayed home and watched movies once in a while. I had a great videotape collection and later DVDs, and there was something to that, for sure. But it was always going out. Every day was making plans. You know, I'm 10 years old. I'm making plans for the day, right? The things that I did with my friends, going out and doing things, that's gone. That's over. That's in the past. It's in the past. Let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
This is Lafayette from Corte Militia, California.
How are you, Lafayette? Everything good?
How you doing, Jimmy?
I am fantastic. How are you?
So,
what's on your mind?
I'm doing good. Well, it's like the Marshall McLuhan said earlier, the medium is the message. And I came across evidence that Osley, who used to make the LSD back in the 60s, that was the good stuff, had you could call it a channeled vision about a giant storm at the Arctic that would change hot to cold. And it's similar to what I was working with the Göbekli Tepe disaster, Arctic methane storm. And also I noticed that Randall Carlson also had his vision of the great deluge while looking at the Minnesota River. And the dates, one was in the summer of '69 for Randall, and Osley's was in '2. And there is a midpoint between Neptune and one of the outer planets, and the midpoint centers on Proxima B Centauri. So apparently those aliens there are taking psychedelic seaweed or something.
And what's your point, though? Are you suggesting that's where we are now?
Well, they're trying to communicate with us telepathically, and they're choosing the people they're picking are people who are tripping. So they're probably saying that that's kind of the direction we should take. And as you know, that's my view that that's our way to defeat the mechanical aliens, is if the abductees get high on mushrooms in a synchronized fashion. Even say maybe the first Friday of the month, as a way to protect ourselves from telepathic mind manipulation.
Okay, I'm trying to stay with you. This is way beyond where I am right now.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
Way beyond. But this is what I find so fascinating. And Lafayette, again, thank you for the wonderful phone call. But this is where I am right now. When I remember, it was probably 2 years ago, I went on an entropy rant about technology. And my entropy rant was about the complexity of the computer systems on Wall Street, the computer systems of the banking system, the satellite networks that are running DirecTV and the internet, and the complexity of the internet, and that nobody now, there isn't one central point where anybody understands Wall Street and the computers that are doing the predictive stock trading, where it used to be stock traders were down on the floor with little slips of paper. They put their trades in. The certain amount of control there, as crazy as it was, everybody, thousands of people on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, and what was going on there. Today, right now, millions of trades happen each nanosecond. And then those trades respond to the trades that are being made now. There are no human minds making these decisions. And that is entropy waiting to collapse. Nobody understands the mortgage banking system. Nobody understands the future trades. Nobody understands the software. Nobody does. There's no central control point. The levels of complexity of software and hardware that is driving what is happening between satellites and television and on the ground, and the levels of insanity in between there, nobody knows. Nobody knows about switching and packet switching and the complexity of the internet. Nobody understands. They just piggyback the software on top of it, hoping that everything's going to be fine. Well, now the entire world is now built on this complexity. And if it unravels, it's going to unravel quickly and badly. And that is entropy. So, based on all of that, with the way that social media is now built and the software and the algorithms and the predictive algorithms and your news feed and the world that is being fed to you, it is advertising and it is everything. It is so complex that we can't undo it now. We have to write it out. We have to write it out. We have to allow entropy to run its course. And entropy applies to everything that ever was and ever will be. And when somebody says, well, wait a minute, man, entropy isn't in my life. Entropy is so defined. It is so defined that in your life, Lafayette, I can tell you, and I don't know you, but I know that one day you got a new job and you went to that job and you were making friends. And that first day on the job, life was simple. And then 2 years after that first day, 2 years later, that job sucks. It's gotten complicated. You've got people that you don't like. You didn't get the promotion. You didn't get the rate. You didn't get this. You didn't get the day off that you wanted. It's now this complex thing that is taking over your life. And then you get fired. Or then you have to quit because everything just got to be too much. That's entropy. And then you have to start over again. And it's the same thing with anything, with relationships and with it, whatever it is. It always starts off simple and ends complicated, bad, everything blows up. That's entropy. And entropy right now is the world as we know it. It started off simple. How simple? How about fire in a cave 10,000 years ago on the Serengeti? Nice and simple life. Nice and simple. Fire. And today, look where the world is. It's a complicated mess, and the second law of thermodynamics is getting ready to play itself out. And that second law of thermodynamics with entropy is that to create energy, you expel heat, right? And eventually you create so much of it that the machine explodes. It comes apart. And that's where we are today. So, yeah, was Terence McKenna right? Quite possibly, man. Quite possibly. Did we focus on the wrong thing? Quite possibly. Could aliens and ET come at us, Lafayette, and go, you know what? It wasn't about the internet. It wasn't about that. It was about consciousness. It was about expanding your mind and the betterment of yourself and the contribution to others. That's the exactly secret, right? That's the secret to the universe.
The meaning to life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't a certain amount of magic and consciousness in a 1966 Ford Mustang V8 Shelby 350 GT, right? I'm not saying that because that part of life is pretty friggin' wonderful too. But you've got to be able to have both and to understand the meaning of things. You know, is it possessions? Well, you know what? I want a 1966 Mustang 350 GT, burning fossil fuel, V8, the smell of a 4-barrel Holly carburetor. Oh, man, there's nothing like it. But you want that goal for the right reasons. You don't want it for the wrong reasons. That 1966 Mustang 350 GT Shelby is not the meaning of life. You get that because you found your bliss and your happiness. Do you see where I'm going with this?
I think so.
Yeah. You know, it really, because that's when that possession has meaning. You don't want it because your neighbor has it. That's wrong. Right. That's not your goal in life. You know,
it won't make you happy either.
No. You know, is your goal in life out there, like so many, to have a 3-bedroom house and then a 4-bedroom house and then a 5-bedroom house with a pool and a membership to the golf club? If that's your meaning of life, you've got it wrong. You want to find bliss and happiness inside yourself. And if the reward is something like that and it just falls in your lap, that's a whole different situation. Your goals weren't the house. Your goal was happiness, right? And right. If the other stuff comes along with it, great. Then that house has meaning, right? It's a totally different situation. It shouldn't be the other way around. And I'm sure that Terence would agree with what I am saying right now. And if we could somehow shift our goals, look, there's nothing wrong with possessions. There's nothing wrong with that if you're happy with inside yourself. Did you find your bliss in life? And I know I'm sounding all crazy, spiritual, and in a way I am. But until you find your happiness, you're not going to be happy. You're going to be chasing something else and be bitter. And that's not the way to live life, man. You don't want to get to 75, and sitting around counting the days, right? And looking at your own mortality and saying, did I live a life worth living? If you have to ask yourself that question, you didn't. You want to be 75 going, man, I rocked it. Right? That's what you want. You want that. And Terence, when he was facing his own mortality, he recognized just that. He's like, you know what, man, I lived a good one. I contributed. Yep. I'm okay with it. I understand what life is about. So I'm okay with it. The cycle of life is here. I'm about to enter it, and I'm okay. And that's where all of us need to be. So there you go. That's my soapbox, Lafayette. And see what your phone call did.
Set you going, eh?
I'll talk to you,
There
man.
is more to life than the superficial goals that were dangled in front of us.
You've got to find your bliss. And you
got to follow your own path.
You've got to follow your own path. And I think so much today with the younger generation is, so what's your goal? Well, I'm going to be a YouTube star. Wait, slow down. That's okay if that's your bliss, or are you looking for dollars? Do you think that the life of, and I hate to say it, right, the Housewives of Beverly Hills, or whatever that may be, that some reality, do you think that is real life? Is that a goal you want to attain? You want to be the wife or the husband of a Hollywood celebrity and have a reality TV show, and that is the keys to the universe? I don't think so. Right?
Or a stepping stone to the presidency.
I'll talk
What about
to you.
Jimmy Church for president? The full disclosure platform with a basketball for VP.
Oh, man. There you go. Thank you for that, Lafayette. Enjoy your night,
All
man.
right, have a good one.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Go Beckley Tepe.
Go Beckley Tepe. That's a great phone call right there. And it does force me to get into that frame of mind and jump on the soapbox, because I like certain things. I do. I like mechanical watches. I love guitars, right? There are certain things that make me happy. But there was a time in my life, a few times, where I had nothing. I had nothing. And it was a long journey. It was a long journey, and it hasn't been easy. But I needed to find the happiness inside of myself. And I knew that. And Rita knew that, the happiness inside of herself. That once we found that, and we did, it was a journey. But once we did that and we found the happiness inside of ourselves, and everything fell into place because we weren't confused. Right? We weren't confused. We weren't lost. And whatever it is that makes you happy, whatever it is, you need to do that. And I know that we've heard this time and time again. We've heard it over and over again. But it's nothing can be truer. Just find what makes you happy, whatever it is. And you know what it is. Maybe you don't want to tell anybody. You don't want to verbalize it. Well, that's where you need to stop. Whatever it is, go and do it. That's it. And then, bam, everything happens. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. With that, I'm going to get out of here. Jay Weidner, great conversation tonight. The Life and Times of Terence McKenna. Great show. Fantastic. Perfect show. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Camurian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2020 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black of the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, right here, Carolyn Ford, The Magic of Crystal Skulls. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. Until then, be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.